Love blessing, heart blessing, God blessing, mother blessing, every power blessing like child. God blessings.
Hello, good morning or good evening or good night, depending on where you're coming from. Welcome. We are back with our Living Shakti Summit and interview series. My name is Shri, and I am so excited to be able to talk with Surbhi today, who is going to be sharing some of her experiences with Ma Shakti in celebration of Navratri. Welcome, Surbhi. Thanks so much for being here, Jai Ma. And if you could briefly introduce yourself, we'd love to hear some more about you.
Yes, thank you for having me. My name is Julia. My given name was Surbhi, which is the essence of sweet fragrance, which I think is a beautiful alignment with this lineage. Recently, I just came into this lineage. I've only been a participant under Ma for about 3 to 4 months. My history, as you yourself are, is coming from a dance background. So living from the beginning of my life at the age of 5, moving into the dance world, it has succumbed me to many different facets of movement. And I believe that movement in spirituality is a form of bhakti that actually many don't participate in. It's not something that we relevate ourselves back to the physical body. And just reading snippets, I just got Ma's books. So just reading snippets of her book, and just at the beginning, her talking about the body and how important it is as an aspect of spirituality and its health, in its movement, in its existence. And I believe, you know, through the power of Shakti and the power of creation, that the living body is such an expression of what Shakti is. So I'll give you my background as a journey more than, hello, let me introduce myself.
Yes,
I did
please.
Yes, I did introduce myself as Julia because my given name, Julia Katcher, was very important to me as I lost my dad at 18. So I do believe that parental and family is extremely important, and honoring the name of your parents. And that is also discussed in her book, which I think is beautiful. And then moving into a traumatic part of my life, my husband kind of saved me from a very extreme part of my life. So taking his name, Persike, was actually another huge part of my life transition. And then moving forward into this lineage and getting a spiritual name, it's been an honor, and it's very heartfelt on all aspects of where we come from and where we go and where we end. So growing up as a dancer, I find dance to be, we start in this very disciplined practice, and it moves us into performance and competition, where we are into a perfectionist type mode, and we see dance as like a presentation. And as I moved forward in my career of dance, I really started to find the actual spiritual aspect of what that is. And the ending part of my career became more improvisation, which you'll see later. But I feel that when you can express dance just from the movement that's coming from within, as opposed to a choreographic nature, there's just moments of simplicity that occur that just resonate on a higher level, that radiate outward, that I feel is important to understand even in yogasana. So as my journey, I told you it's a long journey, but as my journey continued from Iowa, I graduated with my BFA in dance. But during that process is when my father actually passed at 18. And so my dance career in college was a little blind and traumatic. So it wasn't something that I was really engaging in. It was more like a get through it and you'll survive. But dance during that time really actually enlightened me into who I truly was. And it brought me into a place of understanding what true grief is, I suppose. So after my college career, I did move to California as well. And I started dancing there with a company in San Diego, but I was still in a very grieving process. And that was when I met one of my first teachers in spirituality. And I felt it was an eye-opening experience, because in the grieving process, even though you may have a platform that allows you to have the creation and the bhakti, there's still a sorrow that occurs. And some of my pieces were very dark in that time frame, just to express what was going on inside. As you know, public speaking for me is actually, I'm called the white flower. Like, if you find me, I'll talk to you, but if not, I'm not that colorful garden, you know. But in California, I also started learning the practices of kickboxing and martial arts, and I've been practicing that now for 16 years and teaching it here currently. But I believe that my journey as a process was through the physical body, not only externally, but internally. And as I went into kickboxing, that's where I met my first teacher, and I understood the discipline of martial arts just as much as I understood the discipline of dance. And it became almost a form of dance for me. So when I taught it, it was, again, another type of sadhana. It was very expressive, aggressive. I mean, I'm fire, so I enjoy that aggressive nature. But as I continued with that teacher, I started to understand what meditation was, what devotion was. Okay, how do I sit in meditation? The awkwardness of meditation when you first start, you know, am I doing this correctly? But it helped me sit within myself. So that channel opened me to a bigger platform, because obviously losing my father, I wanted to understand what health was on higher planes. So then I went to school for Ayurvedic medicine and became an Ayurvedic practitioner. Following, I went into yoga teacher training and became a yoga teacher. But that path has been consistent throughout my entire life. So I do believe that the passion of movement in general, doesn't matter if it's yogasana or kickboxing or, you know, dancing. I think movement in general is my path, honestly. And the health and creation of how do you get the body to do that is so important to me. So again, going back slightly, then I started doing bodybuilding and I competed in a NPC bodybuilding competition. So then it's radiating the body in a totally different way. But again, it's understanding all of those principles of how can I make this move? Where do I understand it? And being able to teach that, I feel like, is the little seed. So I kind of consider my life like a garden. Like, I seeded all of these little plants and they bloomed like flowers, and then out came the seeds, and then I'm able to share that information. So as my path has gone, once I was finishing my life in California, a lot of trauma happened in California as well. And that's actually how I met Kalavati. And I mean, I met her in Ayurvedic school, but in a deeper sense, she helped me come from a space that was on a lower point. And that's when I met my husband, and I ended up moving to Las Vegas, where I opened my practice there for Ayurvedic medicine, along with teaching kickboxing yet again. Vegas was a good space for me to be in. I got an additional master's degree there in obstetrics for Ayurvedic medicine. And I really was inspired there because of the dullness of the city there is pretty, it's very latent in the energy, you know, so to have so many people that are aspiring to seek, that's what I'm really looking for, even in my life. Like, I'm constantly seeking or constantly seeding, like I said. And so to be able to share that information and understand it from the point of giving back what I've learned, because I feel as though I'm a learner in selfishness, but I'm a giver in selflessness. I learn all the things that I do because I really feel like you should be a guinea pig first before you share that information, and you have a full background of what that is and almost a mastership of what that is. Moving forward, I am finally here with my husband in Missouri, and we have started a farm. So my current education is I'm getting my doctorate in naturopathic animal sciences. So I'm actually shifting from human health into animal health. And again, it's from a selfish platform, as we are running a farm and we have never done this before. So finding naturopathic ways to treat our animals, our soil, our environment, and our earth is, again, another sadhana for me. So it's consistently putting my hands in the physical movement and understanding all of the platforms of how everything works together. And it's aligned me with people here that are not necessarily on a spiritual wavelength. They're more on a religious wavelength. So I've actually got to meet a lot of people from the aspect of religion, and I never really threw myself into that either. But it's, coming into Ma, and this is where I came into Ma, was in Missouri. That's like, I was going down a lineage of Ma Kamala, and it opened another door to meet Ma in that way. I'm not one to jump into things unless I feel 100% aligned to it. And that's kind of how my life has been. It's just flown from one thing into the next thing. And I felt it was the time and I was ready. So when she presented me with my spiritual name, it was in an abundance of love for me. It didn't even matter what it was. It didn't matter what it meant. It was more, I am ready to receive from this highest space possible, a living guru. And so that path of movement through dance at 5, as you probably know, being a dancer, you completely understand that, but it has resonated through everything throughout my life, that discipline, that creation. And so realizing that as bhakti, as sadhana, from a spiritual platform, because you're not necessarily knowing that when you're 5 years old, like, this is going to be the thing, but it's dharmic, and it's my full bhakti. And I feel as though it aligns with creating the body, it aligns with knowledge, and it aligns with discipline on the aspect of everything that has been created in my life. That's the shortened form of my journey.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing all of those experiences, and starting from your name and honoring your parents to, your own personal journey, and how important the body is for you and your bhakti. And yeah, I know there's just so many ways that we can really connect with our body. And I'm a huge proponent for, dance and physical movement and connecting the body, mind, and soul through that expression. And so I definitely relate to how much bodily practices can really enhance our spirituality and, as you said, save lives. I've worked with a lot of children, youth dancing, and myself, and so many times I feel like too, dance has saved me or has brought me into a deeper place of devotion and opened me to spiritual forces that can't be explained, just through words. So thank you so much for sharing how that's just been a through line in your life. And it's really beautiful to hear.
Thank you.
Yeah. My next question is about the golden age, actually, which Ma does speak about in the new book, The Living Shakti, that, we're coming to a place of enlightenment, and we should all be on board to bring in the golden age. And I'm wondering how you think about that. How do you feel about that? And what are some of your hopes or dreams for that? And how do you feel like you're contributing to bringing in this age?
Yeah, I do believe we're in an intense shift right now, and it's showing on multiple facets, from the darkest of dark shadow work to the highest of high light, and I think that does go back to my relationship with developing relationships with people that are not necessarily on a spiritual plane, but they're on a religious plane, and giving an understanding and shaking up the world a little bit. I have been called the fire starter in multiple aspects, and I sometimes feel like I'm placed in perfect little snippets of life to start waking things up, that it's it's still settled within the souls of people, but it's not fully woke to the place of speaking outwardly. I even had a recent conversation with my mother about just speaking outwardly about the word God in general, and how people are so afraid to say God, And I think the more we utilize that higher plane of consciousness, and we really, I don't, whether you call it the absolute, the creation, God, like, it's aligning all people to that platform of this higher liberation that we can all reach. And I feel if we subtly bring in, like Ma does with the sweet fragrance, like, it's that effervescent love reaching outward, and no matter who you're talking to in the moment, you're giving that single moment of love and compassion and kindness, like that ear, that listening. And I feel like a lot of the time people are listening to give advice, and I've shifted into, I want to listen to this because I just want to know, like, I want to understand what people believe, and have the conversation. And I think the more people that you have the conversation with, the more the awakening happens. And so everyone in that bowl will eventually move into that higher space, and we'll all start to understand each other. I mean, that's the goal, I suppose. But I guess for myself in teaching, I encourage debate, and I encourage the offset of, you don't think the same as me, because I truly believe when it clashes, and when you can come together and have a union, doesn't matter what you believe in, then you are starting to develop a world where everyone can accept each other on their own platform, in their own time, in their own space, in the exact moment of which they sit, because we don't know the story, and I feel like the more people you talk to, stories align so easily. Everyone has gone through some sort of trauma. It was their trauma, and some people think their trauma is less than your trauma, but it's like no one ever talks about it. It's such a quiet whisper that it's like healing happens in the exertion of our creation. So I believe that if, same again with dancing, with singing, with mantra work, with whatever creation that you're wanting to express, if you express it outwardly and you open yourself up to it, and you don't succumb to opinion and judgment, you just let it happen, then you're releasing yourself from all of this banter of opinion and manipulation. So I think in golden age type of scenario, we just need to start listening. And that is the biggest thing for me, is listen to everyone's platform and hear them without judgment, without attachment, without emotional aggression with yourself, like you're getting mad because they don't believe what you believe. I think it's important to just listen, and just like meditation, be still and give understanding. And maybe if it doesn't resonate with you, you understand it within yourself why it doesn't, and then there's lessons, lots of lessons given from that.
Yeah. Wow. Well, give thanks for you and all of your confidence and bravery, because yes, it's so needed that we can listen with that sense of detachment and compassion, and there's so many people that are going to have different opinions than yourself. And I think that it's difficult for a lot of people to be able to listen to other people. So I love that you shared that, and that you're so strong in being able to do that. It's so important. And I can see that you are a force in helping bring this age to come for everyone. So yeah, thank you. Really appreciate that. And I know that you have a devotional practice that we're going to watch. Can you tell us a little bit more about it before we tune into it?
Sure. So this was a piece that was during a part of my life. Again, we go back to trauma. I think a lot of people in a spiritual practice or their life, not that it always has to be that way. It doesn't always come from trauma. Some people just wake up enlightened, and that's beautiful. But a lot of, people that go through traumatic experiences, they come to God. And in that part of my life, that was literally the shift between California to Vegas, as I spoke about earlier, where I was having just this enormous fight with myself of go into dejection or go into enlightenment, one of the two. So I made choices. And so that this piece specifically that we're going to watch was that moment in time where it's that's why I named it Hope, because it resonated me in a way that I'm not going to give up, and I'm going to keep moving forward with this aspect of love. I don't care how many times I get trampled. I'm going to stand back up and just why I do martial arts, I'm going to stand back up and I'm going to fight, so I believe it to be that way. And so it, as an improv, it just kind of came out whatever was within me in that shift.
Wonderful. I look forward to seeing it. And Surbhi, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. Jai Ma, namaste.
Jai Ma, namaste.
When I look into your eyes, it's like watching the night sky, all beautiful sunrise, but there's so much they hold. And just like them old stars, I see that you've come so far to be right where you are. How low is your soul? Well, I won't give up on us, even if the skies get rough. I'm giving you all my love. I'm still looking up, and when you're needing your space, I to do some navigating, I'll be here patiently waiting to see what you find. God. the skies get rough, I'm giving you all my love. I'm still looking up.